So I just got a reply on the video that I shot this morning about what's the use in quitting now, where I talked about people making up this excuse like there's no reason to quit now because they've done all this damage already. And I pointed out in that video that often the people making the comment to me really hadn't smoked that long, or they didn't have that amount of measurable damage yet, and they were using it as their excuse for continuing to smoke. Well, within, I don't know, about an hour of putting it up, I got the first reply on the video. And it was a very interesting reply. It was from an 18-year-old who said he'd been smoking for 7 months now. And, he was planning on quitting in 2020. So we're talking about 4 years from now. So he's going to smoke from 18 to 22. This is the plan. And, is smoking going to kill him? Well, if you look at the risks of most of the diseases and problems caused by smoking, probably not. I can't say anything with definite, with a definitive yes or no, but no, probably not. But you also have to understand that smoking causes other problems that can take a person at any age. Some of the diseases may get people young too, but more likely, automobile accidents. Smokers have a lot more automobile accidents than non-smokers. One of the reasons is just the handling of the cigarette, smoking the cigarette, throwing a cigarette out the front window of the car, having it fly in the back window of the car, finding out about a half an hour later when your seat seems to be on fire. This causes accidents. It also interferes with reflexes. It takes longer to adjust the night blindness. That was one of the problems with smoking, but also the reflexes are slowed down. And that's something that can have an effect where, a situation while you're driving, which isn't your fault, someone cut you off or something in the road that isn't what you expected and it came out of nowhere. But if your reflexes are just a little bit slower, hey, this may cause an accident that can cause damage and, hey, may cost a person their life. What's most interesting, though, about this particular case is he's a young person, 18, who's planning on quitting at 22. Well, that's a nice plan. In fact, it's a plan that most people who are early smokers take. There's been surveys done for a very long time that basically showed that people do not believe when they take up smoking that they're going to be smoking this long. When high school age kids were interviewed, this was back it was either in the late 70s or early 80s that the original studies that I saw on this, it was showing that if you went into high schools and you ask kids who were smoking already, pretty much this person fits into almost this category, maybe just a little bit on the high end of age. But still, if you ask high school age students who already smoke, how many of you think you'll be smoking 5 years from now? 5% of those kids interviewed during those studies had acknowledged that they had thought they'd be smoking 5 years down the road, which is a pretty good indication, that 95% of them were pretty sure they were going to quit. They weren't going to take up long-term smoking. No, they were smoking to fit in now, and, when they get tired of it, they just quit. Or if they make up their mind at some point, they're just going to quit. So you interviewed the kids who are smoking already. 5% of them thought they'd be smoking 5 years down the road. When they were followed up in long-term studies, 7 to 9 years later, 75% of those kids were smoking. What that meant is for every one kid who thought they were going to quit, for every single one that thought they were going to quit, 15 of them continued smoking. The majority continued smoking. This, again, comes down to the point where people don't understand what they're dealing with when they take up smoking. Young people don't understand. They're dealing with an addictive drug that, while their full intent may be not to smoke over a long term, their intent really has very little bearing on what's going to occur. The addiction is going to call the shots. It's the same thing with people who've quit smoking who think they're going to control their smoking somehow now. If they just smoke every now and then, take a puff here and there, what's the big deal? The big deal is it's an addiction that if it gets in the system, it takes control, the way it did to the young people much earlier than they anticipated, and the way that it did to the longer-term smoker who smoked for years or decades, quit, and now somehow thinks they're going to control it again. You're not going to control your smoking. It's going to control you. It's going to control you to a point that it can kill you if you don't wrestle that control back. the way you get that control. It's not by planning what you're going to do in the future. If you want to get out of the damage that it might be doing, that it is doing right now, the consequences that it might cause down the road, if you want to avoid all that, it's a matter of right now making and now sticking to a personal commitment to never take another puff.